Before Harlem was Harlem, before the Renaissance lit up the streets with poetry and jazz, there is only this moment, one decision, one journey, and it all started here. Picture yourself standing on a train platform in 1915, the air thick with steam and anticipation, as hundreds of people clutch worn suitcases and cardboard boxes tied with string. The great iron locomotives wheeze and hiss, their massive wheels grinding against steel tracks that stretch northward like ribbons of possibility. These are the sounds of transformation, the mechanical symphony of the Great Migration, as families from the rural South board trains bound for New York City with hopes folded carefully in their coat pockets and dreams tucked between the pages of their Bibles. The conductors call out destinations in voices that echo through the cavernous stations, and among those destinations, spoken with increasing frequency, is a name that will soon become synonymous with cultural renaissance: Harlem. The train cars are filled with the soft murmur of conversations, the rustling of brown paper bags containing fried chicken and biscuits for the long journey, the gentle lullabies sung by mothers to calm restless children. These passengers carry more than just their belongings. They carry the musical traditions of the Mississippi Delta, the storytelling heritage of Georgia front porches, the artistic sensibilities shaped by generations of creativity born from struggle and survival. Their voices blend together in a rich tapestry of Southern dialects and shared experiences, creating a soundscape that will soon transform the streets of Upper Manhattan. As these trains pull into Pennsylvania Station, the great cathedral of arrival with its soaring glass ceiling and marble columns, the newcomers emerge into a city that pulses with energy and possibility. The sound of their footsteps on the polished floors mingles with the urban symphony of New York. The distant honking of automobile horns, the clatter of horse-drawn carriages, the calls of newspaper vendors hawking the latest editions. They make their way through the labyrinthine passages of the station, following hand-drawn maps and whispered directions from earlier arrivals, heading toward a neighborhood that is rapidly becoming the most vibrant cultural center in America. Harlem in the early 1900s was a neighborhood in transition. Its brownstone buildings and tree-lined streets originally designed for middle-class white families who had gradually moved further north as the city expanded. The architecture tells stories of changing times: elegant Victorian facades with their ornate cornices and detailed stonework, wide stoops perfect for summer evening conversations, tall windows that let in the golden afternoon light that would soon illuminate artistic gatherings and intellectual debates. The sound of construction echoes through the streets as buildings are converted from single-family homes to boarding houses and apartments, accommodating the steady stream of new residents arriving from the South. The transformation is gradual but unmistakable. Walk down Lenox Avenue on a summer evening in 1916, and you hear the gentle creaking of porch swings where elderly men sit discussing the day's news, their voices carrying the wisdom of experience and the optimism of new beginnings. Children play stickball in the streets, their laughter echoing off the brownstone walls while their mothers call to them from apartment windows. The familiar cadence of care and concern that transcends geographical boundaries. These domestic sounds create a foundation of community that will support the cultural explosion to come. The economic opportunities that drew so many to Harlem were varied and promising. The sound of hammers and saws fills the air as new businesses open their doors. barbershops where the conversation is as important as the haircut, restaurants where southern recipes are adapted to northern tastes, small groceries where the proprietors know every customer by name. The cash registers ring with transactions that represent more than mere commerce. They represent the building of a community, the establishment of economic independence, the creation of a space where Black entrepreneurs can thrive and prosper. Churches play a central role in this emerging community, their bells ringing out across the neighborhood every Sunday morning, calling the faithful to worship and fellowship. The sound of gospel music spills from open windows, rich harmonies that blend traditional spirituals with newer compositions, voices that carry the pain and joy of the human experience, organ music that swells and fills the sacred spaces with divine inspiration. These musical traditions, carried north from churches throughout the South, begin to influence and be influenced by the urban environment, creating new forms of expression that will soon captivate the world. The intellectual ferment of early Harlem is palpable in the coffee shops and meeting halls where educated men and women gather to discuss the pressing issues of the day. The sound of passionate debate fills smoke-filled rooms where teachers, ministers, doctors, and lawyers who have come north seeking greater opportunities engage in conversations about civil rights, education, and the future of their community. These discussions, conducted in voices that range from whispered confidences to animated declarations, lay the groundwork for the political activism that will characterize the Renaissance years. Young artists begin to find each other in this atmosphere of intellectual and creative ferment. Picture a small apartment on a quiet side street where a young writer sits at a kitchen table, the scratch of his pen against paper creating stories that capture the rhythm and cadence of urban Black life. Through the thin walls, he hears the sound of a neighbor practicing piano, the scales and arpeggios gradually giving way to improvised melodies that speak to the unique experience of being Black in America. These individual artistic efforts, isolated at first, begin to connect and influence each other, creating a network of creative collaboration that will soon burst into full flowering. The social clubs and fraternal organizations that spring up throughout Harlem provide venues for this artistic and intellectual exchange. The sound of chairs being arranged in meeting halls, the rustle of papers as members review the evening's agenda, the gentle murmur of conversation as friends and colleagues catch up on personal and professional developments. These are the sounds of community building, of networks forming that will support and nurture the creative explosion to come. These organizations also sponsor cultural events, bringing together performers and audiences in increasingly sophisticated presentations that begin to attract attention from beyond the neighborhood boundaries. The transformation of Harlem's entertainment landscape begins subtly in the mid-1910s. Small venues that originally catered to working-class patrons begin to expand their offerings, hiring more sophisticated musicians and creating more elegant atmospheres. The sound of renovation fills the air as club owners invest in better sound systems, more comfortable seating, and improved lighting. These improvements attract a more diverse clientele, including white patrons curious about the cultural developments taking place in this vibrant neighborhood. The mingling of different audiences creates a dynamic tension that will fuel the creative innovations of the coming decade. The influence of technology on this emerging cultural scene cannot be understated. The sound of early phonographs crackling to life in apartment parlors brings the latest musical innovations into people's homes.
allowing them to study and appreciate the subtle variations in performance style that will soon become the hallmarks of a new aesthetic. Radio broadcasts, though still in their infancy, begin to carry the voices and music of Harlem performers to audiences throughout the city and beyond, creating a sense of cultural connection that transcends neighborhood boundaries. The fashion and style emerging from Harlem streets begins to influence the broader cultural conversation. The sound of sewing machines working late into the night fills apartments where talented seamstresses create clothing that reflects both personal style and cultural identity. These garments, worn with pride to church services, social gatherings, and evening entertainments, make visual statements about dignity, creativity, and cultural sophistication that challenge prevailing stereotypes and assumptions. The literary culture of early Harlem manifests in reading circles and discussion groups that meet in private homes and church basements. The sound of pages turning, voices reading aloud, and animated discussions about the meaning and significance of various texts creates an atmosphere of intellectual engagement that will soon produce some of America's most significant literary works. These gatherings, informal at first, gradually become more structured and influential, attracting writers and thinkers from throughout the city and beyond. The visual arts scene develops more quietly, but no less significantly. The sound of brushes against canvas, the scratch of charcoal on paper, the gentle tapping of chisels against stone. These are the sounds of artists working in small studios and converted apartments, creating works that capture the unique perspective of Black urban life. These artists, often working in isolation, gradually discover each other through chance encounters and mutual acquaintances, forming the networks that will support and promote their work in the years to come.
The entrepreneurial spirit that characterizes this period extends beyond traditional business ventures to include cultural enterprises. The sound of typewriters clicking in small offices where ambitious publishers work to create magazines and journals that will showcase the literary and artistic talents emerging from the community. These publications, often produced on shoestring budgets with volunteer labor, provide crucial platforms for new voices and perspectives that cannot find outlets in mainstream media. The educational institutions in and around Harlem play a crucial role in nurturing the intellectual development that will characterize the Renaissance. The sound of chalk on blackboards, the rustle of students turning pages, the passionate voices of teachers who see their work as more than mere instruction. These sounds fill classrooms where young minds are shaped and inspired. These institutions, many of them founded and staffed by the community itself, create a foundation of educational excellence that supports the cultural achievements to come. The religious diversity within the Harlem community contributes to the rich tapestry of cultural expression. The sound of different worship traditions, from the enthusiastic call and response of Baptist services to the dignified ritual of Episcopal ceremonies, creates a spectrum of spiritual expression that influences and is influenced by the secular cultural developments. These religious traditions provide both continuity with the past and innovation for the future, creating a spiritual foundation that supports the community's creative endeavors. The political consciousness that develops during this period can be heard in the increasingly sophisticated discussions taking place in meeting halls and private homes. The sound of debates about voting rights, economic opportunity, and social justice
grows more intense and focused as the community develops its political voice. These discussions, conducted by people who have experienced both the limitations of the South and the possibilities of the North, create a political foundation that will support the cultural achievements of the Renaissance years. The influence of immigrant communities on Harlem's development is subtle but significant. The sound of different languages, Spanish from Puerto Rican newcomers, French from Caribbean immigrants, various African languages from recent arrivals, creates a polyglot atmosphere that enriches the cultural mix. These diverse influences contribute to the cosmopolitan character that will become one of Harlem's defining features, creating a cultural fusion that produces innovative new forms of expression. The role of women in this emerging cultural scene is both traditional and revolutionary. The sound of women's voices in church choirs, community organizations, and family gatherings provides a foundation of strength and continuity, while their increasing participation in literary societies, artistic endeavors, and business enterprises signals a changing role that will become more pronounced as the Renaissance develops. These women, many of them educated and ambitious, create networks of support and collaboration that will be crucial to the community's cultural achievements. The seasonal rhythms of Harlem life contribute to the development of its cultural character. The sound of summer evenings when windows are thrown open and music spills into the streets. The gentle rustle of autumn leaves on tree-lined avenues where intellectuals walk and discuss the issues of the day. The cozy warmth of winter gatherings where artists and writers share their latest works. These seasonal variations create a natural rhythm that supports and nurtures creative expression. The development of Harlem's reputation as a cultural center begins to attract visitors from other parts of the city and beyond. The sound of footsteps on brownstone steps as curious tourists explore the neighborhood. The conversations of cultural adventurers seeking authentic experiences. The mingling of different accents and perspectives in clubs and restaurants. These sounds signal the beginning of Harlem's transformation from a local community into a national and international cultural destination. The technological innovations of the period, improved printing techniques, better recording equipment, more sophisticated lighting systems, contribute to the professional quality of cultural productions. The sound of printing presses working overtime to produce publications. The whir of recording equipment capturing musical performances. The hum of electric lights illuminating evening entertainment venues. These sounds of technological progress provide the infrastructure necessary for cultural achievement.
The economic prosperity that many residents achieved during this period provides the financial foundation for cultural patronage and investment. The sound of coins dropping into collection plates at church fundraisers, the rustle of bills being counted in small businesses, the ringing of cash registers in successful enterprises. These sounds of economic activity create the financial basis for the cultural explosion to come. The children growing up in this environment absorb the cultural richness around them, their voices joining in the songs heard on every street corner, their eyes wide with wonder at the artistic and intellectual achievements of their elders. These children, raised in an atmosphere of cultural pride and creative possibility, will become the artists, writers, and intellectuals who will carry the Renaissance to its full flowering in the 1920s. The gradual recognition of Harlem's cultural significance by mainstream media and cultural institutions begins to change the neighborhood's relationship with the broader city. The sound of reporters' typewriters clicking as they file stories about the exciting cultural developments taking place in Upper Manhattan. The voices of cultural critics discovering new forms of artistic expression. The conversations of established cultural figures who begin to pay attention to the innovations emerging from this vibrant community. These sounds signal the beginning of the broader recognition that will make the Harlem Renaissance a national and international phenomenon. The physical spaces of Harlem, the brownstone parlors where salons are held, the church basements where meetings take place, the small clubs where musicians experiment with new sounds, become sacred to the community's cultural identity. The sound of these spaces being prepared for gatherings, the gentle murmur of conversation as people arrive and greet each other, the expectant silence as performances begin. These sounds create the atmosphere in which cultural magic happens. The sense of possibility that permeates Harlem during this period is almost tangible. The sound of ambitious conversations about future projects, the excited whispers of collaborators planning new ventures, the confident voices of people who believe that their community is on the verge of something extraordinary. These sounds create an atmosphere of anticipation that will soon be fulfilled in ways that exceed even the most optimistic expectations. As the 1910s draw to a close, the foundation is firmly established for the cultural explosion that will define the next decade. The sound of this foundation being laid, the conversations, the musical experiments, the literary discussions, the artistic collaborations, the business ventures, the educational initiatives, the political organizing, the social networking, creates a symphony of preparation that will soon burst into the full orchestration of the Harlem Renaissance. The stage is set, the players are in position, and the curtain is about to rise on one of the most remarkable cultural movements in American history. And as Harlem streets fill with music, art, and quiet ambition, the next chapter begins. Next time, we'll meet the literary giants who gave Harlem its voice. Poets, novelists, and thinkers whose words still echo today.